Alrighty. I have been looking forward to today. Chad Rickabaugh is in the studio. How are you doing, man?
Never better. I'm better than yesterday, and I'm so thankful and honored to be on this podcast with you, Tim.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, I gotta pause for a moment because the VIP guest is in the room with you.
Oh yeah, my best friend, Copper. This is my dog. He is dog spelled backwards is God, and the golden retriever. I know you're a fellow bird dog guy.
Yep,
You got your GSP.
that's
I,
right.
I I do love a good bird dog.
But Copper rocks, though. It's not just the dog, but it's the attitude of the dog.
Ah, that's right. He's very
How would
loyal, very wanting to please.
yeah? So tell me how would you define Copper? In the family realm.
Man, I would say first and foremost, he's convicted. He has the Holy Spirit in him. He obeys whatever I ask for, he does, and he's great with the kids. I don't have to worry about him ripping some kid's face off.
Right.
Just a great all around dog. I take him with me everywhere, and I've
Nice.
been doing that since he was a puppy, and that's helped significantly.
Yeah, you and I were at an event over at Lineage Church, and they were doing a Halloween event,
Yes.
and you were giving out candy to the families, and Copper was there as like the mascot for your like awesome setup. It was awesome.
He brings so much joy to
Yeah.
people, and I'm so thankful for him. We got him from a good friend of ours up in Memphis,
Okay.
and we brought him back as an 8 week old puppy through the Memphis airport down to Orlando, where we live.
Oh,
And for the first time, I felt like a celebrity.
really?
You walking through the airport with a golden retriever puppy. Let me tell you what, people are freaking out. They're wanting to take your picture. They're ecstatic. So he brings so much joy to people, and I'm super thankful for him.
One time I was traveling through the Charlotte airport, North
Yeah.
Carolina, and first time ever, and I travel a bunch. First time ever, there was a therapy dog in the terminal. So
Oh,
when
that's
you were
awesome.
passing by as a passenger, you could literally pet the dog. And I waited in line. There were
Oh
people.
yeah.
Oh, it was awesome. And I'm like, this is a smart idea. It was like one of
Oh
those
yeah.
paw therapy groups, that they train the dogs to do the
I
therapy.
love that. I love that. Yeah, I think the dog that you own, I think it says a lot about a person.
Hmm.
And I'm working on this theory where, people are like dogs, and some people are, stubborn bulldog. Some people are loyal golden retrievers.
Right.
Some people are lazy, so I've been playing with this theory about dogs and personality traits, and
Sure.
I'm working on it.
That's good. I've been working on a theory that cats have an amazing purpose. I can't think
Yes.
of one right now.
I was waiting for it. I didn't want to. I didn't want to call you out on your own podcast, but yeah, that was good. A good punchline there. Yeah,
Thanks. Thank you.
cats.
Yeah,
I
I've
mean, I like a
actually,
jungle cat.
yeah, speaking of jokes and laughter, you and I were participating in a stand-up comedy uh,
Yes,
showcase event. Took the stage, and you actually wrote a really great joke about the pub sub.
the pub sub.
Yeah, 'cause we love Publix, big Publix fans. So could you
Yeah,
take me into that little story for a moment?
absolutely. Yeah, I leaned in more to the Jerry Seinfeld observational humor, and I'm in line waiting for a pub sub. Now, I am a recovering addict of the pub sub. There is a lot of calories in those chicken tenders, especially you got to go foot long and you got to wash it down with a Diet Coke. And there's a lot that goes into it. Publix, as great as they are, it's a terrific revenue generator for them, the sub department. However, they've totally missed out on Henry Ford's assembly line concept for
Right.
no reason. There's no innovation. There's one person making one sub at one time, and the line gets backed up. But it's worth it.
Yes. Yes. And I think there was a little comparison or a twist to the whole Jimmy John's.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Jimmy John's, man, they got it down. It's not
Like,
as good,
boom.
Boom. They're big on efficiency, and as a business owner, I I track every step that we take,
Right.
to make sure we can be as efficient as possible. Public said, nope, we're sticking to it. It's how we've always done it, and we're never
Yeah.
changing. And I
Yeah.
admire that.
Yeah. The only efficiency is going to be in that self checkout line, right?
100%. Which I think as a societal norm, people are accepting it.
Mm,
When that first came out, the self checkout, everybody's like, "Hey, where's my 1099? I should be getting paid for
right.
this." But now I think people realize it's actually faster.
Yeah. I used to joke about being in the self checkout line and I couldn't look things up because I couldn't spell them because I,
Avocado.
yeah, because I failed homeschool,
Uh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, the
Oh,
self checkout's great. Now, people will take advantage of that. I'd be curious to see the numbers. How many people steal
yeah.
from the
Ugh.
self checkout? There's terrible people out there, but
Yeah. The food's going to rot if they steal it. They get sick.
agree. That's right.
Consequences.
God's justice will
Yeah.
prevail.
Speaking of that, the United States of America thanks you. You are a
Oh,
Marine.
yes.
T-
Hoorah.
Tell me about that story. Not
Yeah.
everybody, quote unquote, qualifies.
No, no. And in fact, I was sitting in class. It was a career development class. And I'll never forget it. This guy, Staff Sergeant Prince, which is
Okay.
just already the coolest name. He came in, he was jacked, the blues, the uniform. He had a stack of ribbons on it. And that class in particular had a large amount of females in the class.
Okay.
And I noticed how the women reacted when this stud of a man walked in. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And he said to me something. He said, Chad, you just went to 12 years of school. Why would you want to go to four more? And, and I said, wow. And,
That's a
you
great
know,
line.
it's a great line. And they'll give me a gun to shoot and I'll travel the world. And then he also said that, an interesting fact of Fortune 500 companies, the ones that are led by former Marines was like an alarming percent. It was like 30% of
Okay.
CEOs were former Marines, and that stuck out.
Hmm.
So I went to the recruiter's office that afternoon and to learn more, and he looked at me and he said, "Yeah, I don't know if you have what it takes, Chad."
Really? Is that
And
is
I,
that a is that a bait question though?
oh, 100%,
Seriously, like does that make you go,
100%.
"Ugh, I'm going to
Oh yeah,
do
yeah,
this"?
yeah, yeah. That was a tactic they
Yeah.
used. And he said, hey, I think the Navy down the hall, you might want to go talk to them. And
Okay.
I said,
Is
son
you
of a
sunbathe on the deck?
gun, where do I sign up? I'll show you. And
Right.
then when we get to boot camp and later on, I talked to a bunch of other Marines and they're like, my recruiter used that same line on me.
Yeah.
I'm like, they got us good.
Yep.
So it
Yeah.
was fun. It's the
Will you
world's
defend
greatest
at
fraternity.
hello? Right.
Yes. Oh yeah. And it's carried significant weight with me in my professional career,
Sure.
giving me a work ethic, drive, and it's almost like a secret handshake. When I was in the corporate world, a lot of leaders were, VPs and
Hmm.
C-level execs were former Marines, and it was like fast track to,
Right.
get to the top of companies. So I'm super
Hmm.
thankful for that.
We're going to dive into your RevText in a little bit, which you've been very entrepreneurial and very innovative. But I want to go to what I would consider kind of some of the root cause to some of your passion in life, and that's family. Um,
Uh,
we're both dads to two
that's
kids.
right. Dad
We
life.
both have a boy and a girl and a dog.
That's right.
So life is great. Our wives are smarter and better looking than us, so
We
that's another
we tricked
win.
them good, Tim. We tricked them good.
That was I'll never forget this podcast is about you, Chad, but I'll never forget sitting down and selling my wife on me. It was terrible. I said, this is like an IPO. Like you can buy all the shares.
Right. Do you like what you see? Are you in or out? Is it
Right,
a
exactly.
Shark Tank
Right.
pitch?
I'm going to give you 100% exclusive option rights on this exclusive deal.
Yes.
Only available now.
I love it. What year of marriage are you on, Tim?
19 heading into 20. And yeah, it's
Wow.
really awesome. The fun thing about it for me is, I'm very stupid and slow learning. So it's one of those constantly. I mean, we've gone through a lot of journeys and adventures together, which I think makes it kind of one of those sharpened swords. I'll use the sword for the Marine callback.
Hoorah.
I don't believe anything great is easy.
No, amen
You
to
know, and
that.
I'm not just throwing that out there as kind of like a hearsay. I really mean that. And so for my wife and I, you know, for those of you that have relationship in your life, if there's anything difficult, lean in. You know,
That's
I
right.
actually Ryan Alonzo, pastor over at Lineage
Oh
Church,
yeah, my
best friend to
shepherd.
both of us. Yeah, uh,
Yes,
he actually had a line. I watched a message of his, and it blew me up, bro. It was, if you quit a relationship and walk away, you left behind all the lesson, and you left behind anything great.
mm,
You know, and it was like, wow, don't quit. You know, work through
that's right.
things. I think that's great. Not about me today. What I want to talk about your family, because I really see in you, because I've watched your story since you launched your business, but your family's been at the core. I know you and your wife partner on a bunch of stuff that she's doing, and you're obviously not just parenting your kids, but you're teaching your kids life
That's right.
skills. So tell me anything you want to tell me about the super awesome,
Yeah.
crazy, fun, dangerous family.
I do want to go back to the quitting and that concept. And there's a line that I want to share with everyone that's really resonated with me. And when it comes to debates or trials and tribulations in the marriage,
Mm-hmm.
ask yourself, is this going to matter in 5 years?
Right.
If not, don't let it matter for 5 minutes.
Mm.
So really take into consideration, like, is this a big thing or is this a little thing? How much weight am I giving this?
Mm.
And obviously we have Christ at the center of our marriage, and I extend Christ-like grace, or at least I try to, every
Mm-hmm.
day to her, as a wife and a mother. And it's challenging. You're spending every day with the same person.
Right.
There's bound to be conflict, and it's how you handle that. I'm going through kind of a chapter in life where I'm I'm obviously studying the word of Christ and reading through the four gospels. I think that's like that graduates you from like baby Christian to maybe like middle school Christian, when you
Right.
have read through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And I'm also deeply interested in Stoicism. And I
Yep.
think there's a lot of parallels. The biggest difference for me in life with the Stoicism versus Christianity is that Stoicism, you give a lot of, like, rely on yourself a lot, to react or not react to external
Right.
stimuli. Whereas a Christian, I deny myself daily. I pick up my cross and I follow Jesus. And that's where I get my strength and faith. And that has carried on, you know, great success in the marriage. We are not on 19, we're on year 16. And I always joke, I said, we've been married 16 years and it's been the best 14 years of my life. Because it's not easy.
Right.
Year seven that's true. The year seven's tough, especially with the little kids, you're
Right.
parenting and stuff. But I love my wife. She inspires me daily. And I married a good one. It's the biggest decision that a man can make is the
Right.
woman he chooses. And don't take that lightly.
Yeah. I'll just echo you, on the scripture side, the Bible is the ultimate truth. I think the life of Christ is an ultimate role model of service unto others, and relationship building. The
Mm.
biblical term is discipleship, but
Hmm.
I mean, when you have somebody come alongside you in the foxhole, your disciples together to defend the cause. Fill in the blank.
That's right.
I think
That's right.
on the stoicism side, I think what's fascinating is the method that they have a mindset to live to be forgotten. And
Mm.
I've had a real, I did a study on the book of Ecclesiastes,
Nice.
and it's the whole idea of living for the idea that your legacy is not yours.
All right.
People try to find their legacy or build their legacy, but that's not your responsibility. You just do your good work and leave the rest up to, you know, life. It's not our
Right.
control.
Yeah, there are, some things in Stoicism that I don't necessarily agree with, and from a faith-based perspective, because I think it is important that we leave a legacy and a
Mhm.
lineage that we will be remembered, an eternal one. With the Stoicism, I like the line, "Eat the chicken, leave the bones,"
Hmm.
and just pretty much take the good, leave the bad, and really tie it into my walk with Christ.
Mm.
But yeah, marriage is great. I've got two kids. My son Colt is 13, and he's awesome. Firstborn son, yeah,
Yeah.
jackpot. He's into fishing and playing basketball, and it's cool. And my sweet girl, she's 11, going on 22, and she's a daddy's girl. I love her.
Wouldn't want it any other way.
No, no, it's great. With the daughter, my daughter's she's pretty well reserved, wants to be close to home,
Right.
which is what you want in your daughter. You don't want the one that's going, I'm out of here, bye, with, no fear.
Sure.
So, yeah, she's been great.
Yeah. And then your firecracker wife,
Oh, yeah.
she's
Amy.
quiet, very, very boring.
Oh, yes. No
Just sleep
charisma,
on the
no
couch all day.
personality.
You know,
Yeah, no, she is one of the most driven people I've ever met. And I had a concept come to me while driving to work the other day, and I think you resonate these three qualities. And I think in today's age, for us to be extremely successful with the social media, the
mm,
podcast world, these three qualities are strong. So the first one is, being charismatic and having a
mm,
great personality, and really being authentic,
right.
humble, and so all those personality traits. And number two, and this is where I struggle, is with the ability and desire to get in front of the camera.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people, myself included, have struggled with this. It's, I look at it as like my granddad never
Mm,
had to talk into a camera to grow his business, and
right.
but I think to myself, like, if my granddad could have in his time, he would have, because it's such a great way to get that personality and charisma, trust, authenticity
Mm,
out to create value for people. And then the third one, icing on the cake, is drive. If
mm,
you've got those three, I think it's ripe for success in this world. And I've been working on number two, is getting in front of the camera, and it's awkward. As you know, it sucks. It's a game of
yeah.
reps.
Yeah.
So,
And I wrote those three down. I had a similar, call it internal conflict of getting in front of the camera because when I did the succession at the nonprofit where I serve as president, my father was the founder, and
right,
I had left and went off and was doing my own business stuff, and then came back. He was diagnosed with cancer and wanted to, help them in transition. And then the transition was going well to the point that they asked me to take over the president role. And
the
succession
the
is difficult.
prodigal son came back.
Yeah, yeah. Another story for another day. So the interesting element of that was I kind of made this motto. I didn't want to be personality driven, but yet
Mm,
now in the media world that we live in, we're all having to be what I would call just in proximity to people. Skip the personality and just be in proximity. And the fastest way to get in front of people is to shoot a video or, release an audio clip. And that's how I've looked at it, because I hate the idea of being a personality. It makes me
right.
sick. But I
Same.
don't mind being in proximity, where you're capturing content. And I love stories. So like hearing your story doesn't only just deposit into my life greater insight and wisdom, but it also multiplies,
Correct.
which, I think that's what we want to do, right? We can't just, maybe it's not that it's perfect. It's just, hey, we're going to share it in proximity and get the word out. Speaking of getting the word out, I want to dive into some of your hobbies because
Yes.
you're not, I don't want to say it in a rude way, but you're not normal, Chad.
Oh, I'm not. I'm far from it. I like to do hard things, um, and fun, challenging things. Yeah, I would say number one hobby of mine is weightlifting. I'm a self-diagnosed gym rat. I always have been. Today was shoulders and bicep day, and I could probably count on one hand how many times I've missed the gym
Wow.
2 consecutive days in the past, 10 plus years.
Yeah,
And
we have some mutual friends I'm seeing on social media, like they're bumping into you at the gym, and you're there
oh
every
yeah,
day.
every day. Yeah, we got a great community at our gym, and I can do some of the Lord's work there. I can plant little seeds, and it's a great way to disciple. But ultimately, I know that my body's a temple and my mind is only going to be as good as my body.
Yeah.
So as a business owner, I use my brain for a living.
Right.
So keeping it sharp is paramount. Outside of fitness, I love being in the woods and all
Mm,
things that come with that, whether it's hunting or fishing. And I try and do that as much as I can with my son, which is great.
that's awesome. Now you guys have some animals.
We do, yes. My wife is a new chicken mama, and I'm here to tell you to all the guys out there whose wives want a chicken, let me tell you what, that slope is extremely slippery. Uh, I had no idea. I was warned that, you start off with a chicken coop, and then next thing you know, you got a whole farmstead, and we're on that path.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's been great.
So because you guys built the coop, but then I've seen clips where she's talking to the chickens in the morning and having like some
Yes.
dialogue. Is there some like animal human psychology game that's going on here where like there's like some better eggs come from better conversation? I mean, what's the
Yeah.
story?
Yeah, it's like it is proven that if you talk to your plants, like they grow back faster. I
Okay.
don't know. I'm selfishly here for the protein. I like these little I call them protein poopers.
Nice.
Ironically, my wife does all the work. I'm the only one that eats the eggs,
Okay.
and and so for me, it makes my wife so happy.
Sure.
She loves the chickens. She's got a purpose. We recently had a chicken hatch 5 eggs. We had a
Oh
chicken
wow.
go broody, and which means she just hunkering down, wanting to sit on eggs. So we threw some eggs under her, and she laid those 5 eggs. And
Wow.
so it was really cool to see God's work in these magnificent creatures. And my wife's all worried about them, oh, are they going to make it? And I'm like, listen, the chicken population is not endangered by any means.
Mm.
This species is pretty solid. And so we're up to 20 chickens now,
Wow.
which is pretty cool.
What's your egg count? Do you have like a so many per day or
Not many now. We've probably got about 5 layers, to be honest with you. We've got
gotcha?
two generations coming up, and they take about 6 months to lay eggs. But it's great to be, the sense of being self-reliant. Like, I can
Sure.
eat what I'm getting from my farm, and I think that's like tribal within the
Mm,
man DNA, to be
100%.
able to forage and provide for your family. It's pretty cool, and the egg quality is far superior than what you get at the store.
Right. Yeah, my
So there's
prepping
that.
strategy is to live on acreage, which we do.
You're on some property, yeah.
Yeah, and then Publix is a mile and a half away.
Yeah.
So
Where
I'll go there for
shopping is a pleasure.
wings, come back to the fire pit.
Yeah,
No, the
yeah,
chicken thing's awesome. I mean, I grew up around a lot of animals
I'm
overseas,
sure.
as you know, and it's a very fulfilling. I'll never forget the best pork chop ever in my life was in the country of Haiti. We had raised pigs and then would butcher them and literally butchered the pig and ate the pork chop same day. It was like the best ever. And I know some people don't eat pork. Are you a pork guy or no pork?
Hot take. I'm off the pig.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the Jewish population, I think they got that one right.
Hmm.
Pigs are disgusting animals. I try, I'll eat a piece of bacon if it's there. Don't get me wrong,
Sure.
but I'm not
I
actively.
won't hold it again. I won't hold it against you. But if we go against each other in a sword fight, and I pull out my slab of bacon, bro, you're going
Yeah,
down. You're going.
don't get me wrong.
You're a
The bacon is
marine.
phenomenal.
You're a marine, but I may attack you with a pound of bacon. I may
I would
just
let
throw the
you.
bacon at you.
I'll have a couple bites in moderation, but yeah, I don't actively seek out the pig.
Right. Right.
I got a freezer full of venison, and
Okay.
I'd rather, and some grass-fed cow.
Yeah.
So I just try and stay away from the pig.
No. Venison rocks. My brother, he's a big venison guy, and I probably got to be careful on what I say, but uh, he has a thing for the deer. He really
Oh
does,
yeah,
big time. I actually was in.
that the line.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was in Louisiana, and we had a comedy event after the show. They're cooking dinner for the talent, and it was awesome. They made like homemade gumbo in Louisiana. I mean, I'm pounding this
Ah,
down. Like it was
so
unbelievable. And I'm
good.
like, what is this sausage? It's like the best sausage ever. And she says it's venison. And so they made
Yeah.
venison sausage. And I'm like, wow, because where I come from in Orlando, we call that a McRib.
Ah,
I
that's
was just being
good.
I was just being silly. But yeah. No, it was amazing. And I even one time I was in Texas and we had an event and there was a chili cook off afterwards, like a bunch of men
Mm.
were gathering
Oh
and
yeah.
we did this like chili cook off. And this chili I couldn't stop eating. That one actually was venison chili.
That's so good.
Yeah.
The line "You are what you eat."
Okay.
So if you look at a deer, it's one of the most athletic animals in the world.
Hmm.
Like they are very agile, they're athletic, they constantly on the move. You compare that to say even like a cow,
Right.
kind of fat, lazy, they don't move much, they're not athletic. We're big on the cow in this country. And so I will say the best meat is elk. I killed an
Yep.
elk in New Mexico in 2019, and I cried when we finished the last of that meat. And I felt better. My body was healthy. I felt athletic. I had great drive, mental clarity. It's phenomenal.
My stepdad has made me elk burgers. And I
Oh
would that
yeah.
there I will agree with you. The elk I would actually prefer the elk over the venison.
Oh,
Um
100%.
yeah,
It's far superior.
it was unbelievable. And it's interesting you say that. I will actually um I'll call back to your comment about the cow and you are what you eat because one of our mutual admirers, an author that we admire is Scott Alexander, the author of
Oh yeah.
Rhinoceros Success. I've done
That's right.
interviews and book reviews about his content. Influenced my life greatly way back in the day when I was in college. But he talks about the comparison of the cow versus the rhino. And this is
Love
a
that.
great segue into you, Mr. Chad Rickabaugh. This is
Uh,
you, the rhino, charging into this entrepreneur space of RevText. You are what you eat, but the cow's lazy, the rhino's
Yep.
charging and not taking
That's
an
right.
obstacle as a resistance, but an opportunity. Tell me why on earth would you launch a business and especially in the tech space?
Man, that's a great question. Always, even as a young child, had aspirations to start my own business. I
Okay.
think there's something that a lot of people, it calls to us, to build something from scratch.
Mm,
And it's not easy. And I will say, for anybody considering starting their own business, it is the ultimate pursuit for personal development.
right.
Because if your blade is not sharp, if you're not surrounded by great mentors, and I'm thankful to call you one, you're gonna fail. And so,
Mm,
my granddad said to me, he's like, Chad, when you get out of the Marines, go work for a large business,
mm-hmm.
go work for a small business, and
Mm.
then go start your own. And so that was
Great advice.
always,
Wow.
yeah, that was always my path is, work your way down. So when I got out of the Marines, I went to a large defense contractor, climbed the ladder there for 8 years, then went to a smaller business in the aviation world.
Mm-hmm.
And God said, Chad, it's time.
Mm.
And so did a lot of research. I took a grad school sabbatical and I checked a big bucket list item off. And I went to the University of Florida.
Mm.
Go Gators. Got a Final Four this weekend. We're going all the way in basketball. And so I did grad school there. And as I kind of looked through different business models, I knew I wanted to leverage a lot of my skill sets were in tech, innovation. We're here on
Mm-hmm.
the Space Coast. So we're surrounded by that culture. And then I love to communicate.
Mm.
And so I found that one of the fastest growing communication channels was text message communication. And I dove into it and with both feet. I did business plans on it at UF and got a lot of, guidance from my professors. Learned that it was an emerging tech, which was pretty
Okay.
cool. I like the where you can discriminate. If you're in a 200-year-old industry, really hard to differentiate. Where this one was pretty new. Um, And so I actually started helping my wife's business with it. She's in beauty sales. And we found that speed to lead
Mm.
was significant when converting new customers. People, especially nowadays, the attention span is the fastest growing commodity.
Mm.
You gotta get them while they're, interested before they change their mind. So we set up some automations to where, if they filled out a contact us form or product inquiry, we send them a text. And so then we can
Nice.
engage and nurture that relationship. Because people don't want to talk on the phone.
Hmm.
People don't want to, they definitely don't read their emails, but a
Right.
text, that works.
Right.
So there was some significant compliance side that I had to dive into, but coming from the MilGov world and the aviation FAA world, yeah, regulations are that's a known evil. And I started developing our own software, and having never written a line of code, that was challenging. And I owe a lot of credit to you and your son for the wisdom I got early on. Um, and that was a huge bonus.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That
yeah,
was
we're
fun.
up.
He's a techie and you're a techie, and I think the two of you had some wonderful what I'll call chocolate and peanut butter conversation.
That's
It's
right.
the conversations that most people can't have, but when you get under the hood of tech and code, it's fun talking to another nerd-esque kind of person.
That's
Yeah,
right.
so overcoming those obstacles, Chad, I love what your grandfather's advice was, is to kind of grow down, big company, small company, then launch your own.
Hmm.
But it's a mindset that you've had and your wife in her business, and that is whatever problem you face, it's not a question of is it going to be hard? It's a question of what's it going to take to get through it.
Right.
It's
That's
almost
right.
like hard is hello, right? That's the door
Yeah.
that you open to opportunity. Is when something's hard, you just have to understand on the other side is opportunity. You mentioned my son when he was 5 years old. He got on the cover of the Orlando Business Journal for being the youngest author because he was selling knock knock joke books door to door that he wrote.
That's
And
awesome.
the first lesson I taught him was counting the no's, because after you knew the average number of no's, and it was 7, so we would celebrate no number 5 and get pumped at no number 6. And sometimes you would get no number 8 and then finally a yes at 9, or sometimes you get, fortunate or lucky and you get a yes at 5, but the average
Right.
was 7 no's. It's like,
Yeah.
so for you in business, resistance or problems, can you share with me one problem that you're like, boom,
Yeah.
I walked through that door. It was hard, but you did it.
Just one problem. I mean, I got
Well, there's
the
gazillions,
day
but
is
maybe
young. It is
there's one
resilience.
you want to share.
The biggest thing, when facing problems is, to your point, embrace the hard, embrace the suck,
Mm-hmm.
because that means you're growing.
Mm,
So what may seem like a pivotal, challenge in front of you, you're going to get better at it,
right.
and your lower level employees, they're not faced with problems.
Mm,
So as things come up, you kind of take it on as like, oh, this sucks, but that means I'm growing.
right.
So a lot in the sales world, you get told no a lot, and you got to get some thick skin,
Mm-hmm.
because in your mind as the business owner, you've got the best product in the world, like who wouldn't want to send a mass text campaign to your audience to promote your new product that has a 98% open rate, that has the best return on investment in any marketing spend ever? That sounds great. Well, a lot of people don't want it, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And that's okay. And you got to, get used to handling objections. And no doesn't necessarily mean no forever. It means no,
Right.
not right now. So
Correct.
following up with those leads has been a huge help. But yeah, some of the biggest challenges, choosing your vendors wisely.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one. I had a vendor that I thought I could trust. I
Mm-hmm.
thought that they were a partner, but they were far from it.
Mm.
So I'm a little bit, but boom. So that's a lesson learned. That was the cost of tuition, I had somebody tell
Yes.
me. So, and did it in the world that I file bankruptcy and lose my business? No. But I'm
Right.
thankful for that lesson because now I've got that merit badge, I got that Purple Heart, and now I'm ready when I'm in front of a new potential vendor. I know the right questions to ask. So,
Hmm.
embracing those problems that come up as a business owner, I think is the best advice I've ever heard.
Yeah, well said. I echo that, and it's also I echo it from the vantage point of when you have something you believe in, which obviously you believe in the technology of texting, and what I love that you said earlier is the speed to lead, because
Hmm.
if whatever company you're serving or nonprofit or any organization, you want them to advance their mission. Okay,
Correct.
so you're the Marine. We're going to advance this mission. Well, what's the
Close with and destroy the enemy.
yes? So what's the fastest way to fulfill why we exist? And if we got to get to customers, the texting method is the
Yeah.
leading win.
The
So
leading way when done compliantly. Now there's a lot of regulations.
right,
And so we just got through political season here in
right,
Florida. And, politicians is a fun fact that when they wrote the laws and regulations for, they call it A2P, application to
okay.
person texting, they allowed for themselves to cold text.
Yeah, I get the cold text, and I'm writing stop like 2 3 times a
Yeah.
day.
The stop is the best way to auto reply. That will block you from receiving anyone from that number. But the
Okay,
politicians, they can buy up phone numbers and they can legally text you.
so
Whereas, we have a line with our clients, thou shall not cold text. You can't do it. You'll be
okay,
fined.
so let's unpack this for a moment, because every human watching or listening receives text messages, and then
It's the
all of us
worst.
have experienced what you just said that I didn't realize was quote unquote regulated to the advantage of a politician. What Why was that quote unquote unique loophole established? What was the motive?
It's
I mean, I'm serious. Like,
true
is there like
politicians, good for thee, but not for me. They knew the power of it, and so they knew the immediate reach, the open rates that a text messages have, and they said,
a,
"Hey, we're gonna make sure that nobody else can do this, but we want to be able to." So,
and you
you know,
they can cold text. So
they
how do you
can.
define yourself as a politician? Why can't some
Yeah,
guy down the
good
street say
question. So
I'm
they do have to go through a pretty lengthy verification process called Campaign Verify. And it takes like 2 months to get approved. They do reconcile that, okay, yep, Tim, you are running for governor. You do
okay?
have this campaign submitted, and yes, you're able to do it. So,
Gotcha.
but for every other business, every other client of ours, we have to have the opt-in consent. So you've seen the check boxes
Hmm.
before. You agree to receiving SMS or MMS from Tim's amazing company,
Hmm.
data rates and message, blah 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 blah. So we help our clients make sure that they remain compliant, because you don't want to spam. It's not good for your brand. It's not good for, people even buying. And so, this is fun. So if you do get a cold text from somebody who you have not opted into, you haven't given them consent to text you, and they're not a politician,
Right.
reply with the following text message. Say, please confirm where you received my opt-in consent in accordance with TCPA regulations.
Okay.
They will start sweating because they know what they're doing is illegal, and the fines range from $500 to $1,500 per illegal text sent.
Wow.
So when these people are sending out 5,000 text messages to, an audience at $500 a pop, we're talking significant money. Um,
Hmm.
so that will keep them from ever texting you again, and it would pretty much stress them. It's really bad for our industry because there are brands that people want to hear from,
Sure.
So I know you talked about, you've got those jeans you like, and so, people
Sure.
have like good products that they want to hear about promotions. They want to hear about new product drops, or maybe there's an event coming up, and that's great. So,
Yeah.
but the average man is subscribed to 5 to 7 SMS feeds right now
Oh,
due to
okay.
a recent study. Women, women are subscribed to 20 plus. Uh, they they love a sale, they love a promotion, and whether it's beauty, makeup, that type of stuff.
Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot where you go to a website, they offer you 15% off or 20% off if you opt in. And immediately you drop the email, and then the next is give me the text, give me the number.
Correct. Yeah,
I
it's
actually
trending hot.
It is trending hot. I do, you and I are both endless learners. So a lot of times I'll opt in because I want to see what they're doing for marketing and especially for copy, which I want to dive into. One of your hobbies, which
For
I believe
sure.
is one of your secret sauce strengths for your company, is content creation and writing. Because most people,
Yeah.
okay, let me just dive under the hood of the
Mm-hmm.
V12 that you run. Most people can text, but they don't write the right copy. They're not creating the
No,
content that makes you lean in and go, yeah, I want to know more, or quote unquote close the gap between speed to lead. You're
that's
writing
right.
copy for clients, aren't
Oh
you?
yeah, we do. We do it, and that is one of the discriminators that we have. So
Hmm.
first and foremost, for anybody who's considering or maybe doing SMS or text message marketing, the number one name of the game is concise.
Hmm.
Brevity and working really hard to say as much as possible in as few of words as possible. And that's where I cringe at, like seeing even like these politicians' campaigns. We call them
Right.
the angry X text, where it's just this large block of words that I hate
Sure.
to tell you, nobody's reading that.
Right. Which
Nobody's reading that.
this calls back to the comedy writing, Chad. Jerry Seinfeld,
Yes.
Jim Gaffigan had a little debate on the number of words required to write a joke, and they mutually agreed that 6 words, 6 words. If you can write a joke in 6 words, it's working. Which I love because you like writing comedy, you're writing copy
Yes.
for your clients, and it's concise. You know, so let you just open up the floodgates, bro. I mean, tell me anything and everything about RevText, and then where can people find it? Your website rocks, revtext.io, but tell me anything, open the
.io.
floodgates.
Yes. Yeah, so our the perfect elevator pitch is that we help brands better connect with their audience using compliant, compelling text message marketing. And we have our own proprietary software platform and recently launched iOS mobile app.
Cool.
But what discriminates us from other texting platforms is that we guide our clients through how to do it effectively. So a lot of people say they can do it and they do it and it doesn't resonate
Mm,
where they can partner with us. So we're somewhat of a hybrid SaaS agency and it's more of a hands-on approach. We love to serve and we're on weekly calls with all of our clients looking at campaign performance, looking at their
mm,
goals, objections, and people love that. People love, you know, that human touch, which is so rare these days.
yeah. No, that's dynamite. So people can just go to the website,
Yeah,
revtext.io.
revtext.io. Our biggest way to get to know us is to book a discovery call. So we've got our call on there. We're not that traditional SaaS where you just sign up and you're on your own. I wanna get to know you. I want to learn about you. I want to learn your goals and even see if we're a good fit. There's a lot of people that we won't work with. There's a compliance side, whether it's the THC world, which we turn down almost weekly. We want to make sure we're a good fit for your organization. So revtext.io, you go there and book a discovery call. You can also text the word demo to 321 That number again was 321 If you text the word demo, you'll be able to book a link and you'll jump on a call with our team.
That's awesome. I'll make sure I put that in the podcast notes when we upload.
Perfect.
Chad, this is amazing. I'm not just saying that because I know you. I'm saying it because you live it. There's some people that you can look from afar through the lens of, wow, that's the highlight reel of their life. They're cool.
Thank
But you're working hard, but you're
you.
working well and you're making an impact. Before we go today, I just want to kind of give you a moment to talk to the creative spirit of your life, because I know the business side, working out logistics, problem solving. Also, you're out marketing and recruiting new clients. Your wife's, she's doing the same in her space. You're raising your family, but also the energy of creativity, because that's one thing about, I find, as we advance in our professions. I learned this from Walt Disney. He had three offices: the office of finance, the office of management, and the office of creativity. And
Love that.
he wouldn't work in all three at the same time, but he would step into the creative office and let the brainstorm, or let the energy, or let that, whatever the writing, or whatever that idea, I call it the idea kitchen or the creative kitchen. What is that like for you? Because you're having to do finance, you're having to do management, and you're great at those things. You studied well, you've had great mentors, but how do you stay creatively fresh?
Man, that's a great question, Tim. Creativity is one of those things that I've learned is not, you're not born with it. You have to you have to grow it.
Hmm.
Some people are like, I'm not creative. It's like, well, everybody is. Everybody has that ability, and it's just a game of reps. So I
Hmm.
think dedicating quiet time to, documenting some creative thoughts, running through different scenarios, and when you're brainstorming ideas, never discredit a bad one,
Yeah.
you know, because that bad one could lead to a good one. So just start, in the world of, lead generation, just start documenting all the different ways I could generate leads, and don't
Hmm.
don't stop. Don't write down the bad one, because the bad one may trigger the brain synapses to go to what could be the
Yeah.
most fruitful one. Um, Creativity is definitely, I'd be lost without it. Being innovative, that is one
Hmm.
thing in the tech world. If you're not innovating, you're out. Like, you have to be innovative.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. I do see for you, it's not just how you serve the client with innovation and creativity, but it's even how you're creative in your own life. Thanks for the comedy laugh about pub sub.
Oh
Before we
yeah,
go, what?
I might go get one today.
Yeah, before we go, what are you and Copper going to go do today?
Man, Amy and I are flying out to the great state of Phoenix, Arizona. So we'll be in Arizona this
Okay,
weekend for a conference that we do event texting for. So we do
cool.
ticket confirmation, FAQs, hype campaigns. So we're going to go out and support that client of ours, who's an amazing woman of God, and I'm so thankful that she came into my life. And so yeah, we'll be out in Phoenix for the weekend, then back to the
Dynamite.
grind.
I love it. Well, this won't be the last, Chad. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Thanks for being real, and thanks for being not normal as well. I love that about you.
Hey, amen. Copper says goodbye, and he's super thankful to make his first podcast.
All right, Copper. We'll have you back next time again.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Great.
Great to
Well,
see you.
thanks, Tim. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.